Hello and welcome to another episode of Heywood and Stuff. For those of you that have already subscribed, thank you and welcome back. And for the newbies, a safe place for us to chat and discuss and have a journey through our mind. This video really is for anyone who is looking to improve their mental health in one way or another. Insecurity issues, self-sabotaging thoughts, low motivation, if you get triggered easily by other people's words, if you're very sensitive in regards to external sources, or someone says a negative thing about you to you, or even indirectly, and you really take it to heart and you struggle to get through it. I believe what I'm going to share with you in this video can significantly improve your life. Now, this is a very bold statement to make, and I just want to make it clear that for some people with certain disorders, chemical imbalances in their brain, all the psychology in the world isn't going to rectify that. There's only so much this will help. And maybe I'm cutting myself short saying that. I don't want to make such bold claims as I can save the universe, but I can. Here we go. 4 years ago, I discovered mindfulness. You can check out the video that I did about mindfulness just last week. In essence, it's basically watching your thought patterns and seeing how your internal dialogue plays out. So how you're reacting to certain things around you. So you might be having a great day and then suddenly someone says a negative thing and then boom, your frequency's changed and you're on a negative path. To be mindful would be to observe that, to notice that, and then potentially be able to switch it back. I've been following this for years and I feel like this year especially I've gotten a lot better at it, which is great, but I did find that every now and then I would dip. If you can imagine my motivation and well-being, because this is all about our own well-being and how we feel, is on, level and stable and happy and good. And you have ups and downs, but they're very mild, day to day. And with mindfulness, you can kind of help it stabilize and stay cool. But every now and then, a hiccup, a little event in life would occur where suddenly I would go and dip. And once I dip, I would just go flat. And I would emotionally feel flat and my mental health would feel flat, and you get the picture. And this getting flat business really starts to piss me off. I couldn't understand why was I still having this reaction. Now I'll put it in context. If I have an argument with a friend or my partner, or if something goes a bit more wrong than the normal, I'm not talking seriously bad, I'm not saying traumatically bad, but something bad enough to shake me up a little bit, this flat line will happen. Now, if you follow mindfulness, you should, in theory, you'd think, well, with mindfulness, I should be aware of the thought process and get myself out of this dip. This last dip that I had really bugged me, and I couldn't figure it out, and I knew that diet had something to do with it, and I know exercise is a contributing factor or lack of, but I knew there was something else going on. Anyway, so I started looking inward a bit and I came to a realization, and I'll get to that. I'll get to the realization soon. People always say that you need to love yourself before you can love someone else. This is true. There's a lot of truth in this. We do, as people having a human experience, we need to love ourselves before we can love others, because it's very difficult to let others love you if you can't love yourself also. And for a multitude of reasons, just on a healthy mental side, you need to love yourself. There's a problem with this statement, and the problem is many of us are able to love ourselves in many aspects of our life. We may think highly of ourselves in regards to intelligence or looks or whatever it is that you do well. You can love yourself for that and you can recognize that. The problem is when something happens to you that then makes you feel shit about yourself, or something that kind of shakes you off course. Suddenly you can't love yourself, and suddenly the love yourself theory goes out the fucking window. And I recognized that, and I started trying to figure out why, hoping that once I could figure out why, maybe I could alleviate it. And so I went back to childhood. I'm a firm believer that the majority of our parents loved us a lot. And many would love us unconditionally, as parents do love their children unconditionally. The majority of parents do love their children unconditionally, which is important. But there's a problem. As much as our parents may have loved us unconditionally, they didn't always translate this to us as children. Often children will be raised in such a way that unconditional love is not available. Children are being raised in ways where love is conditional. An example of this is children being punished Have you ever been sent to your bedroom? Have you ever been sent on the naughty step? Have you ever been smacked? Has your parents ever ignored you because they were angry with you? Have they ever scolded you because you were doing something that they didn't like? Now, I appreciate, believe me, that it is hard being a parent. But for generations now, parents have been using this conditional love as a means of getting their children to behave in a way that they want them to. The problem with this is all children want from their parents is their love and attention, their unconditional love. So if you raise a child in a way where love is conditional, they are going to grow up with that model. And because children are just modeling their parents, they will grow up to only understand conditional love. And this isn't just conditional love for other people who might not act the way that they want them to, might not look the way they want them to, may not reciprocate love back the way that they want them to. A long list of reasons why conditional love doesn't work in relationships. But more importantly, and a lot more detrimental to someone's mental health, is that they don't learn unconditional love for themselves. Unconditional love for yourself is absolute key for hosting a happy, healthy mental health ecosystem, if you like. We are forever telling ourselves that we need to love ourselves before we love others, but it's not correct. We need to unconditionally love ourselves, regardless of anyone else. Once you can unconditionally love yourself, everything else falls into place. So if you're easily triggered by someone that you know who has got a negative attitude, does something that bothers you, or is bullying you, for example, talking badly about someone in a bad space themselves, all of that doesn't matter. None of that will affect you, because if you come from a place of unconditional love for yourself, that's their problem. That's on them. Suddenly, all the external sources, all the external influences are irrelevant, because your core of unconditional love for yourself is solid, and so nothing can penetrate that. This can also help with self-sabotaging thoughts, low motivation. And you're in a relationship and you're worried that they're doing something that's disrespectful to you, or they're acting in a way that you might not feel is appropriate. Sure, if these things are happening, you need to address them, but you won't come from a place of anger or pain, because you already unconditionally love yourself. The focus of your self-love is you. You are the source of that. Now, we should have all been raised in environments where this was given to us by our parents, but we weren't. And it's not to say that our parents didn't unconditionally love us. This is the saddest part of the whole fucking thing. Our parents did unconditionally love us. They just didn't have the tools or the ability or the foresight or the teachings of others to be able to do it, to be able to unconditionally love us. So what should parents have done? I mean, it's a whole different video in itself. It's known as conscious or respectful parenting, and it's a game changer. When you start looking into it, you realize how your own childhood has been drastically changed because of a lack of it. And I'll go into it in another video. It's a very difficult topic for me to talk about because I find it so important that I don't want to get it wrong. But for now, if you can follow the mantra of unconditional love for yourself, I think that can go a really long way in terms of people's mental health and how they perceive the world around them. You know, I struggle with anger issues, self-sabotaging thoughts and anxiety, and being very easily influenced by others, especially if they're in a negative space, if they're in a sad place. Mentally, I can kind of dip into that. But if I'm always using the mantra unconditional love for myself, I can actually be there more as a support system. I can be there more as I can look at it more objectively. I've got more space and room to decide whether or not I want to be involved in that person's life, because they are no longer as important for my self-worth, for my mental health for sure, but also for how I love myself. Now, I know a lot of this sounds really cheesy, but I think that a lot of us are going through life constantly striving to get the approval and love of other people, kind of reaching out in all aspects. Social media is big for it. Workplace is big for it. Your peers, support groups, friends, family, we're constantly looking for it. If you come from a place of unconditional love, you don't need any of that. And that gives you a lot more space to grow and to help others and to, I think, just be a more grounded human being. And also that's really something that we can teach our children by modeling it, by showing them what it is, how it is. And yeah, I think it's a game changer. So to explain how unconditional love would work on such a broad spectrum of reasons is because if you're the kind of person that quickly gets yourself into a negative space. Often when you unpack that, you'll discover that it's coming from a place of fear. So if you're angry at someone because they did something to you, or if you're angry at someone because of how they acted or reacted to someone else, it will always come from a place of fear. And I believe that this fear is dissolved once you come from a place of self-love, because there's no longer any reason to fear that. Obviously, within reason, we need to protect ourselves, but on a psychological level, you don't have to get involved in self-sabotaging experiences. You don't have to be negative about certain things anymore. But with mindfulness and really being aware of how we're thinking and how we're feeling, and that connection, coupled with using that mantra, unconditional love for yourself. Feel the unconditional love for yourself. It's not about loving yourself, it's unconditional love. There's a huge difference. We need to start practicing that no matter what happens, we still love ourselves unconditionally. I know this sounds like some serious hippie bollocks, but the opposite of fear is love. That is the spectrum right there. You're either on that side or on that side. And on this side is anxiety, depression, self-sabotaging thoughts, anger, all the fucking nasties. And on this side is compassion, happiness. It depends where you are, and a lot of people bounce back and forth. As being a child growing up, that's what we experienced. We had some big highs because we did well and we got celebrated and everyone was happy and proud of us, and then we got some big lows because we were abandoned. Psychologically, the unconditional love was made absent. Our caregivers often would remove love as a weapon to make us cooperate, and it never works. It's never been something that works, and this is why so many of us have grown up to have all these insecurity issues. Unconditional love is where you need to strive for. So if you're being mindful, if you're really looking at the way that you think and you notice how you feel, you can get to a point where if you're having a conversation and you start feeling a little bit like, oh, what the fuck is that? Or you start thinking some negative shit, and you can see the correlation. Put the mantra in your head, unconditional love, and you can push that shit away. I am fully aware that some people's internal dialogue, they have very little control over, and there are a bunch of disorders that make everything that I've said really difficult, but there is nothing wrong with striving for this. There is nothing wrong with having this positive attitude and having this mantra in your head, unconditionally love yourself. It's not about loving yourself. It's about knowing that unconditionally, no matter what happens, you will always be there for yourself. And then just implement it in every aspect of your life, where you decide to, where you choose to, with your peers, with your friends, with your family, with your partner. Unconditional love is what we want to give out. And I know that a lot of people will kind of brush it off because they're potentially not ready to hear it yet. And I know it all sounds like, some hippie spiritual bullshit, but you know what? Maybe it is, man. But I know that since I came to this realization of needing unconditional love, I've had 4 or 5 experiences since then where I felt like jolted out of my happy zone, if you like. And I used the mantra, unconditional love, and it was like, fuck, it put me back into place. Thank you for watching. If you're still here watching this, I appreciate that these topics are sometimes a little bit translucent, a little bit, is it magic? I don't know, but fuck it. It can only be a good thing. Remember to subscribe, like, comment, share this, spread the message. Let's get it out there. Let's start a fucking change where people are starting to unconditionally love themselves, I think it's what we all needed. I think future generations need to start, being raised with these tools. It's certainly how me and Briggy are raising Bella. Anyway, thank you again, and I'll see you soon, you gorgeous bastard. Thanks. Unconditional.